Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Qualibrate webinar, Test Automation and Managing the Risk on your SAP Transformation Programs. My name is Martina. I am responsible for the marketing activities in Qualibrate. Today, Sofia Mihatovic, Head of Sales, will show you how to minimize the risk and reduce your SAP implementation resources up to 80% by using Qualibrate. She will first explain the concept behind Qualibrate, then she will dive into a live demo where she will guide you through the main functionalities. Welcome, Sophie.
Thank you, Martina.
On the call, we also have Marcel Biesmans, our sales partner. Some of you have met him already a few weeks ago during the DSAG, the German Focus Group event for SAP. And welcome to you as well, Marcel.
Thank you, Martina.
And also we have Marina Trompe, our Head of Customer Success in Qualibrate. Good afternoon, Marina.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone.
So before starting, just a quick technical note. You're all on mute, but you can type any question anytime by clicking the Q&A button below, the one that you find on your bottom on the left. We will try to answer to all of them in the 15 minutes Q&A session that we have at the end. Yeah, so feel free to submit any question you have anytime. So Sophie, I'll let you to it.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you for the introductions, and thanks everybody for joining our webinar today. We are very excited for hosting today's demonstration, and we hope you are as well. So today I would like to start off by explaining the concept behind Qualibrate, and of course also the typical challenges we recognize at various organizations around testing, but also test automation. As soon as I explain the concept, I will focus more on the live demonstration, showcasing the main functionalities of our test automation solution, Qualibrate. So I will start off with just a couple of PowerPoint slides, not too many, because I don't want to bore you with any PowerPoint slides, and then we move into the demonstration. So let's start off with an SAP graph, because many of you know SAP. I thought of using this SAP graph. I hope you all recognize this graph. It's basically saying managing change in a project lifecycle. This graph is actually explaining that at the beginning of your project, you will have an implementation of a business process. Then you can have enhancement of business process or bug fixes, etc. But what I'm trying to say with this graph is that you have a lot of changes throughout your project lifecycle on your business processes. But every change has an impact on your business process documentation. For example, an organization has this documentation in Word. So the business analyst or someone who knows the process needs to update the business process documentation in Word. Then, of course, you also need to update your manual test case or script. And some organization might use Excel, so you have another tool for this change. And then if you have a mature enough organization, you might have an automated test tool in place. For example, SAP Tau or HP U of T or Worksoft or any basis tooling. So the test engineers need to also update the test script on the automated test tool. And then at last, with this change, you need to also update your training document, because you need to update the end user on the new process. And they might have another tool for this training. For example, Enable Now from SAP. So what I'm trying to say here is that we have a lot of changes in the project lifecycle, and every change has an impact on your documentation, your manual test, your automated test, and your training deliverable. So basically you have 4 different duplicate work to perform out of a change. So we at Qualibrate believe that was kind of inefficient because you're doing a lot of duplicate work. What we also see at our customers is that many organizations are struggling to automate their test scripts with a tool. So the technical barrier was quite high to start with automated testing. So we tried to create a new solution, which is Qualibrate, that covers those 4 areas: the documentation, automated testing, manual testing, and training, but at the same time create a platform that is very easy and simple to use, that everybody can start with test automation. So I hope I give you a clear understanding of this is basically the reason why we started developing Qualibrate. Now let's see how does actually Qualibrate work. So what we did, what you see on the left hand side, is we developed a Qualibrate recording widget. With this recording widget, you do the recording of a business process. And normally a business analyst or a process analyst or someone who knows the process will do the recording of this business process. So the recording widget will capture everything that you're performing on the system. It will capture the user steps that you're performing, so a description, a screenshot of every step, but also the data that you enter, and also the technical knowledge behind the step. So when the business analyst is doing the recording on SAP or any web application, and if I'm talking about SAP, I'm talking about ECC or Fiori, basically all the applications from SAP. And if I'm talking about web applications, I'm talking, for example, about Salesforce. And when you're done recording this process on one of these applications, you can save it to our web application from Qualibrate, and it automatically gives you an input for automated regression testing, for manual testing, for example, for the UAT, the user acceptance testing, but at the same time also for your business process documentation, and at last the end user training to train the end users on the process or the change or etc. So this is how basically Qualibrate works. And a nice part of it is whenever you have a change in your project lifecycle, you just change the recording once and all those 4 deliverables will be updated automatically. So what I'm trying to say is here you're going to save a lot of time just by using this tool for the 3-in-1 purpose: documentation, training, and testing. So that's basically the concept of Qualibrate. So during this demo, what I would like to do with you is I'm going to do the recording and show you the 4 outcomes of this of the recording. So I'm going to now move into the demonstration. Like Martina said, if you have any questions, you can just write them down and we'll try to cover them at the end of the session. It's too bad we cannot make this session interactive. I always prefer interactive demonstrations. But again, please write down your questions and we'll answer them later to you. Now I'm going to connect to my web application from Qualibrate. So I'm going to fill in my username, Sophie Mijatovic. I know it's a weird last name, but I'm Dutch.
At least I'm gonna laugh at your jokes.
Thank you.
If you want.
Thank you.
To be interactive.
Thank you. I'm going to fill in my password. And as you can see, I'm going to log in. Qualibrate has a SaaS application. But if required, we also have the possibility to go on premise. For example, one of our customers, the Dutch Ministry of Defense, is using Qualibrate on premise. But most of our customers, of course, are benefiting from our SaaS application. Once I'm logged in, I'm just going to also connect my adapter. So once I'm logged in, I can see here with my username that I'm logged in. As you can see, I'm just connecting also with my adapter, and this adapter is basically that hooks into my SAP session. This adapter can be downloaded from the web application, and it's about 150 MB, so the download is done within 2 minutes. It's not a big installation required. You can see that when I'm logged in also that I have several projects that are assigned to my user. So whenever you're a customer, you will get your own private cloud instance, for example, essex.qualibrate.com, and you can have several projects within your organization. At the below, you can see here some getting started tutorials, which will take you to our support or our training tutorials where you can find your way of working and the best practices on how to work with Qualibrate. But for now, I'm going to select the SAP TechEd 2019 project. And as you could see on the left-hand side, it took us immediately to the dashboard module. The dashboard module gives you an overview of your project. So it's basically the reporting and analytics side of Qualibrate. Everything that you have in your project, you can basically report on. This is just an example of some graphs and charts that were created before. If, on the other hand, per user, of course, you want to change it. For example, as a tester, you want to see how many tests needs to be run. But as a developer, you want to see how many defects have high priority. So in this case, what you can do, you can just basically say edit dashboard. You can add a chart. And let's say, for example, I want to see the defect count. You can give it a name of the graph or chart. Let's say we want to see a line of the defects count. And let's say you can give different dimensions. For example, the priority, etc. You can hit save. And as you could see, with no technical knowledge required, it will just add the graph. And let's say we want to keep it here. So it's very easy editable to do on your dashboard. Now let's move into the flows. The flow is basically, we call them in Qualibrate term a flow, but you can also call them test cases, right? Or test scripts. So here you can see all the different flows within this project, the status, and you can also change the order if you want. Let's say, for example, I want to see all my test cases or flows. And here you see the last ones I have. You can see the status and the severity and also the last updated. You can also add filters to see only yours, etc. But for now, for this demo purpose, I'm going to create a new flow, of course. And how are we going to call this flow? We're going to call it webinar demo. At the description part, you can give some more information. For example, I think we choose to do it on SAP GUI because I believe 90% of you choose to do the application under test for SAP GUI. If on the other hand you want to see it on a Fiori application, please feel free to contact me. I'm happy to show you also a demonstration on how Qualibrate works on Fiori. But now let's continue with the GUI. We can also give it a severity. Let's say it's critical. This way you can also do risk-based testing if required. And of course, status. Let's say it's new. I'm going to hit save. Now we move into the steps. So basically this the script steps or the test script steps. But at the description part, you can find here the information that I already have given. But if you want, you can of course add more stuff here. For example, how the process is built or why the process is built like this. Now at the steps is still empty because of course it's a new flow. So from this point on, we're going to do the recording of a business process. Now, as you could see from my presentation, this is the recording widget where I was referring to. With this recording widget, we're going to doing the recording of a business process, which can be on SAP ECC, GUI, or any web application, like Fiori. This recording widget will capture everything that we're performing on the system. We kind of keep the recording widget very easy and simple to use. Why? Because we want the business analyst or the process analyst or someone who knows the process to start doing the recording of the business process. Since they know a lot about the process, but they don't have a lot of technical knowledge, we try to keep the recording widget simple. So the only thing for now I'm going to do is I'm going to give the task name and a name. So basically I call them chapters within my flow to give it more structure and it's easy readable. So the first chapter for this flow will be login SAP. We also have some different buttons. If I made a mistake, I can say undo last recorded action. I can hit cancel. I can store, for example, certain values. I can add notes. I can add verification points, so kind of like checks within your process. And of course, save. If I want to go for a coffee or a toilet break, or I want to look something up, how the weather is going to be, I can also hit pause.
But please don't do it now.
No. Now I'm going to do the record. Now I'm going to start the recording. So I'm going to open up my SAP session and I'm going to start the login. So I'm going to fill in my username, user11, and password. And like I said before, the recording widget is already capturing everything that I'm performing on the SAP session. So the details of every step, so a user description, but a screenshot of every step, the data that I enter, and the technical knowledge behind the step. So basically everything you need to accelerate your projects. We can also open up the recording widget to see what has been recorded. You can see my last action was pressing enter on SAP to log in. The action before that was filling in my password. You can see the recorded value here, which I can also change if I want. You can see my username has been captured. I can also change, of course, the recorded value here. If, on the other hand, you want to just continue your recording and change your data later on, you can do that on our web application. But I will show you later on how we handle data within Qualibrate. So now we've done our recording with our the login with the recording widget. Normally, what you would do in project, you will hit save now, and then you would use this login SAP as building blocks in all end-to-end scenarios, right? Because you want to basically reuse this recording over and over. But now, because we don't have that much time, we only have 1 hour, so we have 45 minutes left. I'm just going to do continue my recording. So I'm just going to change my chapter instead of hitting save and creating a new flow, which will be maybe the create quotation. I hope that's clear for you, that you can reuse this, but for now, for this demo purpose, I'm just going to continue. So I'm going to just create a second chapter, which is create quotation. And since this is the second chapter, everything that I'm executing now on the SAP session will be saved under the second chapter, create quotation. I'm just going to fill in some details regarding this quotation. And as you can see, I don't need any technical knowledge to start the recording of a business process. I just need to know how the process works. The recording widget will capture everything that I'm performing. So instead of writing down, I'm performing the P100 material in quantity 1 and adding a screenshot manually, everything is automatically captured. So now I'm going to hit save. As you could see, the status bar of SAP gave me a notification that has been automatically added within the recording as well as a verify. But let's also create a third chapter, which in this case will be view quotation. I'm going to use a transaction code V823 in SAP to view it. Because I would like to show you one more thing from the recording. So I would like to add a verification point, right? That if we have a material of P100 and a quantity 1, then we always get an expected net value of 2,600 euros. So we want to kind of add a check within our script. So what I will do is I'm going to say verify. And as you can see, I can do that on every part of the application. But for now, I'm going to hit 2,600. And I can also open up the recording widget to see exactly what has been captured. You can see here my value is 2,600 euros. If I go to configuration, I will get some more details. A nice and unique point of Qualibrate is that our first layer of Qualibrate is very user-friendly, that the entire team, that even the business team can use Qualibrate, which in this case is the basic tab. But if your team has a lot of technical knowledge, you can also go to the second layer of Qualibrate, in this case, the advanced configuration. So you can find the code behind the test. But for now, I'm going to keep my basic information. We can also change from contains to equals to, for example. I'm going to hit save. But what I will do is I'm going to change the recorded value to a lot of 5s. And please remember that. Okay, I think it's clear of how easy it is to do the recording of a business process. So I don't want to stay here too long. So now I'm going to create my fourth chapter, which is log off. And I'm going to hit save. So what we did, just a little bit of a recap. We just did a recording of a business process on SAP GUI. We captured different chapters. And now I've saved it to our web application. And now I would like to show you the outcome of my recording. So I created 4 chapters: login SAP, create quotation, view quotation, and log off. And every chapter contains their own steps. So login SAP contains of connect to an SAP session, filling in my username, my password, and enter. As you could see, every step has a readable description that the entire team can read, but every step has also its own screenshot. So for here, for example, for the type in user, you see the screenshot, including the highlight where I filled in the username. And as you can see, every step has its own screenshot. Now at the step configuration tab, you can find some more information. You can find the type, you can make step optional or mandatory. We can go to also to the object properties to find more the technical details of the element or the step. This is mostly useful for the automation purposes, of course. And at last, we can also go to notes to add some more notes or to add some notes to the step. For example, on the password, you want to make a something, I don't know. All right, so and then again, this is basically your business process documentation. Of course, we filled in also some data regarding during the recording. We can find that in the third tab, data sets. The default data set is basically the data set from the recording. And here you can find everything is parameterized and everything has its own value from the recording. This is all the values that I added during the recording. This is like an online sheet which can easily be changed. For example, if I made this mistake here, or I want to change it to a different username, I can change it to user 12. If, on the other hand, I want to test this same process, but for example, with a different sales organization, instead of doing the whole recording again, what we do in this case is we say add dataset, just say sales org 2000, or 200, so good. And then we just change the sales organization here to 200. So now we have two tests within this flow with different sales organizations. As you could see, we can also add loops here. That's also a possibility within the dataset of Qualibrate. But we can also go here to options. The first one is simple text. For example, if you want to change it to a different value here. But you can also add references. For example, you want to refer to a parameter outcome of something before. For example, that whenever you create a quotation number that you need to, in order to create a sales order, you want to refer to the quotation before, so that you can use that for the sales order. Or you can go to the advanced tab and of course find some code that you can use. I'm hoping I'm clear on how you can handle data within Qualibrate. At last part, you can also, of course, export this to Excel and then use as much data as you wish into the Excel file and import it back. That's also a possibility. And if you would like to see that in the next demonstration, please let us know. Okay, so that's basically the data management within Qualibrate. I'm just gonna have one sip.
Allowed.
Thank you. Okay, so when I was explaining you of the concept of Qualibrate and why we developed Qualibrate, one of the reasons was that we need to, you have constant changes in your project lifecycle, right? So what happens if your process is changing? For example, here on the type value in the vision. Let's say, for example, for now the process changes. Now we need to add the sales office. So instead of doing the whole recording again, what we do in this case is we just say record from step, and you just add the parts that has been added or changed, and then you just save it back to Qualibrate process. So you need to only update the parts that has been added or changed. This way you can kind of like keep your maintenance as low as possible. If it's not in the right order anymore, you can also drag and drop it. If the text on the step is not enough, you can also change it. So let's say, for example, I want to add here SAP GUI. So here you have all kinds of different capabilities on how to update and maintain your process. You also have the possibility to run from step, for example, that you want to run from step 6 for chapter 2, create quotation.
Yeah, in order to reduce the maintenance, actually, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. We can also add manual steps. For example, here you want to add a manual verification. That's also a possibility. But for now, I'm not going to do that. But now let's see, how can we use this recording for automation purposes, right? So what we can do here, we can say here on the top, we can say run. So you can see we can run it as an automated test for regression testing, as a manual test for user acceptance testing, or to train the end user, you want to kind of like start a training simulation. But for now, we're going to start off first with running our script automatically. Now you see that I'm receiving this window because I have to select which adapter I want to run it on and what data set I want to use. So now we're going to run it on my machine at this moment because I want to show you that without any technical knowledge, you can start automated testing with Qualibrate.
What is actually good to mention, Sophie, if I can
Yeah, please go ahead.
interrupt for a second. Sophie just selected an adapter. What does that mean? She actually selects the machine where we run the test. But at the same time, you can select multiple machines and run the same test simultaneously on actually 1, 2, or 100 machines, which allows, of course, reduce testing time.
Yeah.
And increase the coverage.
Yeah, thank you. Good to mention. Okay, so now we're receiving a task maintenance runtime window. Why are we receiving this pop-up? Because we're running it at the moment in debug mode. So if anything unlikely happens, then we receive the task maintenance runtime window. So we can basically debug our test script. So as you can see, we're here in chapter 3, view quotation. On step 3.4, we're verifying the net value. If that's not enough information, you can also open up the screenshot and see more info. Now, since we changed the recorded value to a lot of 5s, I hope you remember, we're receiving this pop-up because the expected value is a lot of 5s. The actual value, of course, is again 2,600. That's why we are receiving this result as a fill. If it's a data-related issue, which of course in this case it is, you can try it again, for example with 4, and you can execute step. But for now, of course, that's not really relevant. If it's not a data-related issue, you can also go to object properties to find some more information of the step. If you're lost and you're not sure if we're talking about the right element, you can also say highlight element, as it will highlight live on the SAP application about which element are we talking about. And of course, this is correct. You can also go to the configuration tab to find, of course, the code behind the test. But for now, I'm going to hit cancel. You can see here the actions that we can perform. If it's a defect, we can raise a new defect. We can say skip action, of course, also fill action, or end the entire execution. But for now, I'm just going to say skip action and continue with my test. Actually, I didn't explain you, but below here, you can find which test are we running at the moment. So which flow, which data set are we using, and which step are we at. But that was just fast. So now we've done our automated test without any technical knowledge required. Now we can go to the logs to find, of course, the reporting behind the test. You can see we've run this test only once. Here you find some more information, but we can also click on it to find even more information. Here you find kind of like a summary of the test. You can see which data set has been used, and here you see the 4 chapters. I can also open up the chapters to go drill down to see every step in more detail. If on the other hand you want even more, you can also open it up like this. Here you see per step, we can also expand all, by the way. Here you can see per step, the start time, the run mode, the message that we received, and a new screenshot that has been taken during the execution. So let's say, for example, this is all passed, right? But let's say something has not been passed. So what we can do in this case, we would want to raise a defect. So we can say here, create defect. We can give it a title. Let's call it webinar oh, webinar demo defect. Here you can find the description, steps to how to reproduce it. And here you find some more information on the defect. These fields are completely configurable per customer. So of course, per customer, you want to create your own fields or lists for the defects that are relevant for you as an organization. I'll show you later on how you can customize this without the need of any technical knowledge. So now I'm going to hit save. Oh, we need one mandatory field. I'm actually here in the Netherlands, so I'm going to fill in NL. And let's hit save. Now we can go here immediately to the defects. And it automatically opens up the defect that we just created together. Here you can find again the same information. You can, for example, assign a defect to a colleague, for example, to a developer. Let's do it to Mr. Bill. Then Bill will receive an email notification with, hey, there's a new defect being raised. Please go into Qualibrate and please fix it. Then Bill can go into Qualibrate and look for more information regarding this defect to kind of fix the defect as soon as possible.
Yeah, he's off now. He's not going to make it, I can tell you.
Bill, get to work. If, on the other hand, Bill doesn't have enough information, he can also add comments. For example, I need more information on, etc. So you can also have some conversation around the defect on Qualibrate. If I change the status, for example, now Bill has finalized it, he can fill in done. You can see here at the history, everything has been tracked on very good and very well. At the attachment tab, you can add or see the attachments that are related to this defect. For example, you want to add a screenshot of the defect. But Bill can also see the related test cases that are they are related to this defect. Thank you. Sorry. So Bill can go back to the test case or to the flow to find more information of the flow. There we go. But let's go back to the defect. Here, by the way, on the left-hand side, you can see where I am. I'm here at the defects module, and I want to go to see my created defect. And here we are back to our defect. If Bill wants to, for example, share this with another developer because he believes it's not his defect, which happens constantly, he can also say share. And as you can see, it's just copied to my clipboard. And then his colleague can also go into Qualibrate to have more information about the defect. So we also have the deep linking possibilities within Qualibrate. I want to say, are there any questions on the defects? But of course, that's impossible. I hope some people are submitting some questions through the chat, but let's see later. Okay, like I said before, these defect fields are completely customizable, right? Because you want to create your own lists per organization. So how does that work? If I go here on the left-hand side, I'm here at defects, I'm going down. You can go to project settings. And you can go to the template from the defects. And here you see how you can organize or customize your defects. Let's say, for example, I want to delete this crazy message. I'm just going to say edit layout. I'm going to delete this one. And let's say delete. Now, let's say affected countries. Let's open up the affected countries. And let's say, for example, here we want to add Germany. That's DE, right? Or let's say, for example, we want to even add something. Let's say, add field. Let's say, for example,
Affected system.
Then we want, for example, a list as well. let's say the first one is the SAP ECC one, or let's say we have our SAP Fiori, or maybe Salesforce. Let's not make it mandatory. We can hit save, and let's say we want it at the last part. Then we can hit done editing. We can go back to our defects module. We go back to our own defect. And as you can see, now it has been added within my defect module. I can also open it up to say, okay, this is affecting the SAP ECC system. And now let's say instead of the Netherlands, I want it to be Germany. So I hope it's clear that again here, with no technical knowledge, you can just basically customize your defect fields per organization. That's on the defect side. Maybe also good to know. On the flow side, we can also, of course, we have the possibility to integrate, for example, such as tooling like Jira or HPALM. That's also a possibility. But now let's see, how are we using these flows, so these building blocks, in end-to-end scenarios. So here, if I go to the scenario tab, we can find all the scenarios of this project, the SAP TechEd project. We can create a new scenario, but for this demo purpose, I'm just going to open up one. And here you see the different flows that will be executed in this end-to-end scenario. A nice part of Qualibrate is that whenever you want to do an end-to-end scenario covering several applications, that is of course a possibility. Let's say, for example, you want to log in like this one, first in Fiori, then create a quotation and then log out into Fiori. And now let's say, for example, we want to go for the end-to-end scenario, we want to add a new one. For example, our webinar, which is a GUI one. And as you can see, now it has been added within my end-to-end scenario. Of course, these scenarios can be scheduled, for example, for tonight, that whenever I come to the office tomorrow morning, I just want to see the result of the test. And of course, these results can also be exported to PDF, for example, for audit purposes. So that's basically on the scenario level. If we go back to our test case, I forgot to show you one thing, really important one, is how can we run this test also as a manual test, for example, as user acceptance testing. In this case, what we can do is we can hit on the top here again, run, and now we say run manual. So here you see again the 4 chapters that I created. And within these chapters, you have all the steps and the data, but now we also have some buttons. If I perform this step manually, you can say pass or fail. If it's not relevant, we can hit skip. If we're lost and we don't know where to select or use this value, we can hit show me. We can also say do it for me, as it will automatically perform that step for me. We can also raise a new defect if we found a defect. We can show or add comments. And at last, we can also see a screenshot of the step. Because of all these buttons and all these functionalities, that's why we're trying to also name it as an accelerated manual test, because you can run through the manual test very fast. Let's say, for example, we want to validate something here in the create quotation. In this case, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the do it for me option. And as you can see, it will automatically perform that step for me. I can hit again, do it for me. And we can run through the manual test until the point that we really want to manual test. So let's go here as well. There we go. Now let's say, for example, now we're lost and we don't know where to fill in this quotation type. Yeah, in this case, what we can do is we can hit show me, as it will highlight on the live application where I need to fill in this value of QT. Now, if I want to check this manually, I can also fill it in myself. I'm going to fill in 1000. And then in this case, we can say, okay, I've performed this step, and this one too, and 10 as well, and 0, 0, 2. And now I want to continue. So let's say enter, done, and done. So I'm gonna press enter myself. And as you can see, the light green steps mean that I've done it manually, and dark green means I've done it with this do it for me option. But now let's say, for example, we find a defect. So we want to fill this step. In this case, what we can do is we can add a new defect. And it immediately gets to this point where you can add the new defect. For example, defect on sold to party. You can hit save. Oh. And if you want, you can also still continue with your manual test and later on give the defect some more information. For example, assign it again to Bill, the developer. But I hope you get the point of how easily you can run through your manual test case with the manual accelerator of Qualibrate. So for now, I'm gonna hit close. Okay, so have I missed anything?
That's pretty much complete, I believe. Let's see if we have some questions, maybe.
Yeah.
Otherwise, let me do a little bit of a recap quickly before we go into the questions. So a little bit of a recap. What we did together is we did a recording of a business process with our Qualibrate recording widget. You see that the recording widget basically captured everything that I was performing on the system. Then we saved it to the application, and then we opened up the documentation of this test, of this flow. I showed you how easily you can maintain the test by simply adding new steps or recording from step, and also how you can change the data set in the data tab. Then I've run this test. Automatically and manually. And actually, what I forgot to show is no, that was everything I showed. And I've showed you the logs of the test. At the same time, I showed you how you can handle defects within Qualibrate, how you can assign developers, how you can give it some more information, but also how to customize the defects per organization. And then I showed you how you can use the flows as building blocks in end-to-end scenarios, even covering different application types. And at last, I showed you the manual tester a bit late, but I hope it was still clear for you. No, that was, I think, about the main functionalities about it.
Yeah, indeed. I think you showed pretty much everything. Thank you, actually, for the great demonstration.
Maybe it's also good to mention that we support not only SAP GUI, but any application which runs in actually in browser, any web application, including S/4HANA, of course, Fiori applications, Salesforce, or SuccessFactors or whatever.
Yeah, indeed. We also had a question if we could have a demo on Fiori. We'll make sure we will contact you personally so that we can give you a demo based on your needs.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you very much for the great demonstration. I think you pretty much showed how easy it is to record a business process, but how customizable Qualibrate is. Let's go through the question part. So Marina, you will be answering that. We have two questions. They've pretty much already been answered by Sophie, but maybe we can answer to them again. So one is, can I run my test overnight?
Yeah, actually, it's a good question. And of course, it's a good use case. Basically, we provide this capability to schedule the tests overnight. This is not yet implemented in this platform, but it's in close roadmap. But already now you can schedule the tests using any third-party tools. Many customers doing with using Jenkins or whatever, or Windows Task Scheduler. So yeah, basically we can do that.
Nice, thank you. And yeah, again, that was a question which has been addressed, but maybe you want to add something more. Do you support any Jira integration? So you just said that we support any third-party tool, right?
Yeah, we have open API, but also we are planning to have pre-configured Jira integration both ways, actually.
Yeah.
So this is actually part of the standard delivery.
All right, that's pretty much all. We don't have any other questions. I mean, feel free if there's anything coming up on your mind to submit it.
I see here one question. If the flow is related to the scenario, that's why I selected here to relate it. You can see here, whenever a flow has been added within a scenario, you can find it here as well. So here you can see the scenario. S4HANA will be using this flow in the end-to-end scenario.
Yeah, that's pretty good to
That's
highlight too. All right, I think that's pretty much all.
Marcel, do you want to add something?
No, I don't think so. Not right now.
Cool. So anyway, we are, just to let you know, we have recorded the entire session. We are going to send you the link of the video, so you can feel free to share it, to watch it over again if you wish, or share it with your colleagues or anyone who could be interested. If you have any specific case or needs, feel free to reach out to Sophie. I'm going to send you her details as well. She will be more than happy to show you a custom demo. So thank you very much for your time. I hope this webinar was useful to understand how easy it is to use Qualibrate and how we differentiate in the market. So thank you all for joining and have a nice evening. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
And bye, Marcel, too.
Yes. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.